Hello, I'm John Allen, the director and founder of Green Dragon Studio. And on behalf of our Chinese Health and Fighting Arts program here, certainly one of the most diversified in existence, I'd like to introduce you to what we firmly believe is a truly unique and rewarding experience in learning outstanding Kung Fu fighting forms and strength development programs through the medium of our instructional videotapes. We take some time in this verbal part of our introduction for two reasons. First, it gives us the opportunity to pass along some general information about Green Dragon that you may not know. And secondly, we prefer the approach of personal discussion rather than extensive use of on-screen titles. And you'll note this aspect on most of our tapes. We film live during class on some occasions. We film during workshops, seminars, demonstrations. We frequently include portions or all of lectures where a great deal of pertinent martial arts information and knowledge is going to be passed along, and many of you have written to us indicating your appreciation of that. In order to be somewhat brief, I'd like to suggest that you refer to our latest brochure carefully. It contains a great deal of information, not only giving you a complete description of each and every form we offer, something that no one else does in the same amount of detail, but also the last 4 pages provide answers to most of the questions of an administrative nature that we've been asked over the past 3.5 years. Green Dragon has been engaged in bringing authentic Chinese martial arts training to this area of Ohio for well over 23 years, making us the second oldest school of its kind here in this area of the Midwest. My staff has traveled extensively, as have I, to acquire an enormous amount of genuine Kung Fu material, as well as to closely observe the knowledge and methods of others. The result of our many experiences has impressed upon us the strong belief that the quality of the traditional, classical fighting forms and exercise programs that we have at our disposal certainly equals anything we've seen, and in most cases far surpasses what is being taught in many other programs. I think the leader of Outtakes that you just watched supports that statement. There are, of course, many other sources for instructional videotapes on many martial arts subjects, more and more coming on the market all the time. As a matter of fact, before we began our own production, one of our first major projects was to begin compiling a videotape library of what our competition is doing. We now have over 70 examples of what every other major supplier has out on the market, and we have carefully guided our own efforts by assessing what they have done on their tapes, looking at their weaknesses and their deficiencies, and then being careful to avoid the same mistakes. We do know what is out there. We do know what true value is for the money you spend. For those of you, as a matter of fact, who write into us asking about certain videotapes from other suppliers, is the material genuine? Are the demonstrators really any good? In most cases, if we offer an opinion, we will have seen that very video and will be offering an opinion based on first-hand experience. You do, of course, have a right to ask what makes Green Dragon so special. In all modesty, there are too many things I'd like to discuss with you at great length to include in a brief personal welcome. But we do feel that 7 things stand out, dramatically differentiating our tapes from anyone else's. Not necessarily in order of importance, those 7 things would be, first, the enormous variety of material that Green Dragon offers. As an article in the December 1988 edition of Inside Kung Fu magazine that we wrote on classical forms training, as that article pointed out, every student has a different build or body type, has different tastes or interests, and has different goals and objectives. As such, they will not respond to the same type of training in the same way at all. With a large cross-section of fighting forms such as we present to you, especially from many different styles, because every style has its own certain body of strengths as contrasted with some other style. With this type of an approach, you can actually custom design a program that's ideally suited to the temperament and build and interests of the individual student. If you offer limited material, you can't do that, and we feel that that's a tremendous disadvantage. Secondly, Green Dragon has one of the finest teaching and demonstration teams in the world. Most of the people assisting me here have well over 10 years of intensive Kung Fu training of all kinds. They have at that level compiled expertise in from 80 to 100 major forms and programs. They've mastered at least a dozen of the classical Chinese weapons. They've trained in a cross-section of the highly advanced herbally assisted strength development exercise programs, and they have, of course, attained rank in what is perhaps the most demanding martial arts program of its kind. Thirdly, Green Dragon can teach all 72 of the classical Chinese weapons. There are many Chinese masters who feel that teaching all 72 is not necessary. We don't feel it's necessary either, just desirable. Every weapon has something different to offer you in terms of challenge. Few other schools can teach all of the weapons known to Kung Fu, and those that might be able to do so do not seem to be attempting to do that for whatever reason. We, on the other hand, have taught over 30 different weapons in the past 9 years alone, and many of those are reflected on our instructional videotapes, as you have seen. All of our staff are specialists on the basic weapons group of staff, baton, sword, knife, and spear, with our more senior students having 2 or 3 other specialties in the exotic weapons category as well. Fourthly, Green Dragon has all of the major strength and power development programs, both internal and external, both with and without herbs. I know there's great controversy in the martial arts community today, in some cases over things that I have written. But the greatest speed in the world and the finest technique in the world will avail you nothing if when you get to your target you don't have power. It just so happens that a good big man is better than a good little man any day. That's the way it's always been. That is the way it will continue to be. Strength development programs are an essential in martial arts training. Here we include the legitimate Iron Palm, of course, and there are many Iron Palm programs out there that are very limited, very incomplete, some are even dangerous. We have the ancient Iron Vest going back over 1,000 years. We have Hung Style's Iron Thread set. We have the Muscle Change Classic from the 6th century AD, and we have the ultimate strength set, in our opinion, the Stone Warrior. Fifthly, Green Dragon has an unbelievably wide section of true advanced level sets. You'll notice in our brochure that the smallest category to select from are beginner's level forms, which we purposely held to a minimum. Our feeling is that you can acquire elementary level material from just about anybody. In fact, we've determined from a lot of our research that most of what you find on tape from many other sources is usually beginning to intermediate level. Rarely is it truly advanced, at least by Green Dragon standards. No one is offering the majority of the advanced level sets that Green Dragon does with the complexity that we have. And on the few that others do offer, they have neither the performance capabilities in their demonstrators nor our expertise in combat applications. Fully 75 to 80% of our initial 120 videos that we've done for you are forms available only from Green Dragon Studio, and of course we selected them for you with that in mind. You don't necessarily want to be doing what everybody else is doing. Sixth, if the extremely positive feedback that we have had from instructors and students all over the United States, all provinces, Canada, and to this point in time from 43 different foreign countries, if all of that feedback is any indication, no one is illustrating the practical use of their forms with the kind of combat applications that we demonstrate on the end of almost every tape. This is especially true in teaching and emphasizing the superiority of compound circular technique. Just one of the reasons that we have become so well known for our successes in teaching women and men of smaller size. For them, the circular approach to training is far superior than the linear, online, power on power, dominate the center line kind of an approach. We teach both, of course. Both are represented on our tapes. You can choose which you feel is the best for you. Seventh and lastly, our instructional videotape service is personal. We regard those of you who are using our materials as really students in extension, and frequently we address you that way. We look at you as a part of our family, in keeping with Chinese tradition. If you don't want to be regarded that way, of course, it doesn't matter. As such, we feel that for those who would like to be characterized in that manner, that we have an added responsibility to you that other tape suppliers don't share. So we attempt to keep up with a tremendous load of correspondence here to ensure that all of your problem areas are addressed and all of your questions are answered. We fall way behind with this. We are often many, many months behind in personally answering written inquiries. This is one of the reasons that we take our newsletter format that comes out 2 or 3 times a year, and from the last one on we will have a large question and answer section. You will find the answer to your specific questions in there in most cases, and by using that kind of a format, of course, when we answer your particular question, everybody else in the family gets to benefit from that knowledge as well. In that same regard, our relationship to our students, including those of you, of course, learning by tape, you need to know that we are not as interested here in rank, in the prominent masters of styles in which we've been privileged to train, or in how many trophies we can get up on the shelf. We have all of those things. But at Green Dragon, we prefer to be judged in what we regard as the classical manner. That is, by what we have to offer, as just partially outlined to you under 7 points, and the quality of the students that we've produced over the years. That's how you tell where there's good instruction going on. You can be an excellent performer or fighter yourself. You can have a shelf full of trophies. You can have been privileged to train in your experience under an eminent master, or perhaps more than one, as I have been fortunate to do. But if you can't pass that knowledge along to students because you're not a good teacher, then all of it is to no avail to anyone except yourself. In these 2 all-important areas, what do you have to teach and how well do you teach it, we'll compare our accomplishments with anyone's. In support of our credibility in these kinds of areas, we should point out that Mr. Brian Wilkes, Inside Kung Fu's editor of instructional videotapes, made a statement in the October 1988 issue of the magazine that we consider here at Green Dragon to be the bottom line. And I quote him, "The Green Dragon tapes are the best I've seen in the all-important area of substance." Now, while that may say it all, and of course we believe that it does, we might also say that Inside Kung Fu's special issue, featuring a complete guide to martial arts videos in the January 1989 issue, found Green Dragon taking top honors in every sense. Our Iron Palm video was voted Video of the Year, and of only 7 videotapes that got the coveted 5-star rating out of over 120 that were evaluated, 2 of those 7 were from Green Dragon. One of those, the Stone Warrior Strength Set, generated literally hundreds of letters here from students enumerating the gains in size, strength, and power that they had made from hard training on its 21 exercises. And of course, we're very pleased that material that's gone out from here has had that kind of impact on the Chinese martial arts community. Likewise, Mr. Dave Cater, the editor of Inside Kung Fu, a man who is certainly no stranger to the broad spectrum of the Kung Fu arts, tournaments, various styles, celebrities, individual performers. Mr. Cater paid a personal visit to Green Dragon's private studio. He came as a result of the widespread impact that our work was having on the whole Chinese martial arts community. After watching a spontaneous demonstration about an hour and a half long by Green Dragon's exhibition team, Mr. Cater's reaction was, and I quote him, "You people should not remain so isolated. No one is doing what you people seem to be capable of doing. unquote. Finally, people, a number of brief but very important points to conclude. First, if you're a beginner, start your training with intensive leg work. You can't do any arm and hand technique in the Chinese martial arts, no matter how complex, no matter how sophisticated, no matter how effective it would be in potential, if you haven't maneuvered properly to get there in the first place. And maneuvering depends on those legs. Green Dragon's tape on stance work is excellent for this purpose and should be the first tape anyone orders if they have had little or no previous training. Second, start slowly. Again, especially if you're a beginning student or if you're up in age and have had no previous training earlier in life. Your progress has to be by degrees. There's too much in the Chinese martial arts to try to take it all in quickly. You want to plan on working into the thousands of repetitions over a long period. You know, there is no such thing as a short course in realistic self-defense. That is a concept that is frequently talked about. It never has existed. And don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Remember, Kung Fu is an art for a lifetime, not a pastime. If you're not sure of your physical condition, it would, of course, be wise, and we advise you to have a thorough checkup by your personal physician before you start any phase of the training. Nothing will generate better health and greater strength than consistent Kung Fu practice, but it will not happen overnight. Thirdly, Kung Fu fighting and exercise sets do, of course, contain moves and techniques that can cause injury, whether to yourself or a training partner, especially if you're careless. To yourself while you're trying to master a very difficult part of a routine. Perhaps a ground rolling technique with weapons. Very dangerous if you haven't already acquired a healthy amount of expertise. To a partner, of course, just doing man-to-man work together. The opportunity for inadvertently sustaining an injury is always there. Because of this, none of the instructors and students involved in the production of these tapes can assume any responsibility or liability of any type or kind whatsoever for any injury or damage resulting from your attempt to learn, execute, practice, or use any of the movements or exercises in the Green Dragon series. Our own record in this regard, by the way, is exemplary. Not so much as one student, not so much as one, have sustained so much as one serious injury in over 23 years of large group instruction. Now that's a remarkable record when you consider the hard contact that we demand here in our contact drills and in our man-to-man technique work. Do it our way. Follow our recommendations. Injuries are always possible, but not likely. Fourth, bear in mind that all of our tapes, of course, are protected by the copyright laws of the United States, and they are not to be duplicated for resale, for rental, or utilized in any similar illegal manner. Fifth, when you order, and this is very important, always include a list of alternate selections that would be equally acceptable to you in addition to your main choice. Why? Simple. Out of the 120 videos already produced for you, there are always 6 to 8 that are undergoing what we call the reproduction process. In other words, they're being done over again. And the reason for that is almost always the same. Something has happened to the master tape from which the copies are made. Either one of the VCRs damaged the tape, or we have used it so much because the material is so popular, it's been ordered a lot, and the master tape is worn and is no longer making good copies. Sometimes we update our equipment, in which case that will reflect a better quality in the production. We'll redo all of our tapes over again. And something we do that no one else does, I am constantly observing my senior staff people in their personal training. And when I see a performance on a given fighting set or exercise program that has a quality to it that exceeds what is on the videotape we made that someone else did, then I will order that same form reshot, refilmed, using this person, because now I want to get the best possible demonstration on that tape for you to learn from. Now, that reproduction process takes months in some cases. So if you send in a list of acceptable alternatives with your main choice, chances are that you will never send in a list and all of those will be undergoing reproduction. Furthermore, by submitting a list each time, that gives me the opportunity to have some input into your choice. I have, of course, insights into these forms that you will never have. And I might make a better choice from your list than you would have made. 6, despite being the largest supplier of instructional videotapes, that is, if devoted exclusively to the Chinese martial arts, and if you take variety as one of the criteria. Despite this, we are still an in-house operation. The services of my disciples and many of my senior staff members are employed in all facets of both the tape production and the processing of orders. Everything gets my personal attention on a tape-by-tape basis, just like your letters which come in. Everyone is read, even if we don't get an answer back to you for a long, long period of time. We do regard all of you, as I said, who wish to be characterized this way, as Green Dragon students, just as though you were right here with us, training out on the studio floor. As a result, we are going to take more of an interest in your progress and success than anyone else. For those wanting to attain rank, as some of you have asked about, we can promote you if you qualify, given that our standards are among the toughest anywhere, and that you're going to have to master a large cross-section of our material before you could be considered. Finally, remember that in the classical Chinese tradition, the firm belief has always existed that it is forms, classical, traditional, fighting forms. Forms if authentic. Forms if correctly taught. Forms if worked on diligently enough. Forms will build reflex right into the body, as well as augmenting the life force or the chi for power. This is the reason the great masters people use the medium of prearranged forms to pass their secrets along from generation to generation. If there'd been a better way, they'd have found it and they'd have used it. Unfortunately, in our time, students have forgotten just how much work it takes on forms to extract from them the tremendous benefits to strengthen skills that they contain. You don't have to make that mistake. It's avoided by training hard. On behalf of myself, my highest ranked instructor and co-director, Miss Margie Smith, my disciples, and the rest of our staff, I'd like to welcome you to Green Dragon's growing family of instructors and students all over the world who are availing themselves of the unique opportunity that our Kung Fu instructional videotapes represent. We wish you better health, greater strength, and consummate fighting skills as we train together. Welcome to Green Dragon.